Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast and we are back. Patience incoming. Come in, take a seat. Welcome to the therapy booth. We've got three of our finest therapists that are going to see you through. Oh my God, on all things Tottenham Hotspur. If you're here for the first time, where have you been? We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and now we're also on Blue Sky too. We'll find a way into your lives, unless it's going to kill you. Like I say, thank you so much for joining us. We are back on the back of Tottenham Hotspur rescuing a point at Ibrox. I'm joined by finest actors in the land, TJ Ramini, Darren Hartman, blessing us on your screens. And we're also joined by, look, he needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one. We've got the wonderful Marlon over at the Spurs Kings, who makes up our panel here on this Last Word on Spurs. Look, if the game's not entertaining, we'll try and make this entertaining. We'll try. I know people saying, what? Can you? We'll try. And before we get into our wonderful panel on all things about that game and their feeling on it, let's bring you the match facts and stats on what we've just watched. Yes, it was a game, in fact, believe it or not. Rangers won, Tottenham Hotspur won. 15 shots to Rangers for Tottenham's 12. 6 shots on target for Rangers to Tottenham's 3. 23 touches in Rangers box to Tottenham's 24. 5 keeper saves apiece. Didn't feel like that during that game, I've got to be honest with you. 9 fouls apiece. No red cards during this one. Well, there were some feisty challenges going in. 7 corners they shared apiece. Possession-wise, Spurs actually edging it on 58.7 to Rangers 41.3. And the XG, I mean, I know there's not a lover of XG out there. We've seen some bad XG stats out there. But 1.66 for Rangers to Tottenham's 1.00. I mean, God. Yeah. Where do we start on that game? And like I say, I will just say it at the very, very top of the show. From my perspective, look, we want the shows to be as entertaining, as illustrious, as joyful as possible. But I always say this at the top of every show, got to be a sense of realism, right? Got to be a sense of realism as to what we're watching, as to what we're seeing. And that's why we want to be transparent. And then obviously for you guys to make up your mind on where you are on all things Tottenham. I've got to be honest with you, just from my perspective on that game, the lack of application, desire, commitment, and effort, dare I say, bar a 15, 20-minute period near the end, was quite honestly concerning, was quite worrying. Now, look, I know, again, I made that point, we've decimated by injury. We've not got an 11 out there that have played regularly. There's not a lot of fluidity out there. But all you're looking for as a fan is one word, commitment. You're then looking for effort, desire, and playing for a manager. And I have to say, if that's what playing for a manager looks like, dear God, I mean, what would it be like if they're not playing for the manager? We're going to open up with, I don't want to say the most positive man in the world, because that could be a rival between TJ and Hartman. And sorry, Miles, for saying that. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that with his cast that we've got on here. But Dal, I'm going to open up with you. He's the heartbeat. He is the heart of this Last Word on Spurs, as he always is. Dal, I want to get your feelings on that game, because, again, a lot of different feeling, a lot of different emotion in that game for Tottenham. It is 1-8. Look, the result isn't horrendous, but that performance was very much on brand with how we've been playing recently. And that word really quite ugly. How do you sum up, Dal, what you've witnessed at Ibrox and Spurs rescuing a point?
Well, put it this way, no Spurs fan can say they enjoyed watching that game. There was no enjoyment in that. And you posed that question, Rick, if they're playing for the manager. And for me, I don't look at it as playing for the manager. First and foremost, I go, everyone's got to play for themselves. Everyone on that pitch has got a job to do. And they've signed to do a job. They've been given them instructions on what to do on the pitch. Once you cross the line, you got to do it for yourself. And I feel that there's a real lack of effort, but there's a real lack of quality in the players. Because they've all got the ability to do it. Like, there's every man on that pitch has got a level that they can play better than they played today. And there were so many moments where misplaced passes, lackluster, looking like they didn't have an idea. And like the image you put there of Son, just like that, there were so many moments and so many individuals that have to look at themselves and hold themselves accountable. And as a fan base, we're watching going, someone show us, as you said there, commitment, passion, desire, hunger. And it's like everyone's waiting for someone else to lead them. And just made it very clear from the touchline. He gives them their instructions. They go out and do it. And right now, you're watching going, who is leading this? Who is in control of this? Because I can't really, man for man, go, he was great, he was great, he was great, or everyone was poor. I think the only person who I go, well done, you young man, is I look at someone like Archie Gray, who plays centre half today, and he's not a centre half. And you go, bless him, he did a shift today. And I feel that there's a lot that we have to look at in this squad. And there's a lot of individuals that have to start holding themselves accountable. I think when you look at what we've done with our captaincy, and there was no leader out there. And there was, out of our captain union, the only one missing was Romero. All the rest were on the pitch. So if you're there, show me something. Lead. Give us leadership. Hold these young players. Push them forward. I know Werner's been dug out a bit from Ange. I'm just seeing that stuff's gone on with him. Werner gets dug out today. I think Johnson gets dug out today. I think Son gets dug out today. I think you've got to look at the whole midfield of Basuma, Madison, like even Benton got that. Like, these are internationals. These are seasoned internationals who should have a quality about them to do more than they did today. And I think that's the most frustrating thing for me as a Spurs fan right now, is watching players not playing to their ability. And when we get it in a moment, you go, oh, there you are. We know it's in you. Oh, I'm not crazy to think that you have the ability, but it's a consistency. And that's the frustrating thing. God bless us supporting this side. They keep us on our toes. They make our days and our nights challenging. And of course, we have to go to work tomorrow and hear nonsense from random fans going, your team's fell off again. You're rubbish again. And it's a struggle. And I think we've got to start. I know Ange out, Ange in is going to be the kind of energy that is going to be coming out of today. I'm on the look of going, let's start looking at these players. And if they can't look for themselves, January is coming around the corner, and let's see what we have to do, because they have to start being held more accountable than us always trying to throw our manager under the bus. Because we've thrown enough under the bus already, and the bus has plowed through, and we leave the same squad behind. And that's what we need to start changing the culture. That's my feel.
Dale, thank you so much. Look, we're acutely aware there is that ongoing debate around the manager. We'll bring him up shortly, and along with the comments after the game. TJ, I will just come to you if I can. Look, we're going to be real about it. A draw, it's disappointing. Spurs, let's be honest about it, despite having a decimation of injuries, a fact of an 11 that isn't used to playing together, we are a far, far superior side, but just not at the races for the large majority of that match. And it leaves us with two very, very important games to come in, of course, the Europa League, where Spurs still now sit just outside of the automatic qualifying places of the top 8. And Spurs are in a position where quite arguably they may need to go and win both games. Look, maybe you'd argue and say a point away at Rangers isn't a terrible result, given the way that game was going. But what's the general feeling, TJ, around the performance in general and how Spurs apply themselves during that game for you?
Well, firstly, lovely to be back on the show with these esteemed gentlemen. I always enjoy sharing the screen and sharing my time on this program with them. Nice to see you, boys, and to our viewers and listeners. To Darren's point, did we enjoy that game? No, we didn't. This is not just my sort of flagrant, unwavering positivity, but again, it's a tough place to go, man. It's difficult to go to the Ibrox. I think a lot of teams in Scotland, because they're I don't want to say perennially the butt of many a joke, but people don't give the Scottish Premier League a lot of plaudits, and so here's this team with a very deep history, and of course with our Celtic ties, they would have been really up for this, and you could see that. Obviously Ange just coming off the job there, the top job. Forster also at Celtic. Archie Gray, an ardent Celtic supporter. So this really meant a lot to them tonight, and it showed. So coming away with a point in any European tie, especially against a team at home who made it very difficult for us, and hats off to the Rangers fan. They also made it a very hostile environment for us. So we have rescued that, Rick. Your choice of words was impeccable, because that could have been really ugly tonight. Big up as well, Big Ben Foster made so many key saves this evening, man. Was one of the few shining lights from a very, very poor, lackluster team. I think we can see like our fullbacks are shot. I mean, I know we've got injury worries and our substitutes are injured as well. We just don't know who to replace them with. And so a lot of players there just kind of running on fumes. And so, again, I don't think he had a great game. But again, I'll say the same that Darren said. Big up Archie Gray, man. An 18-year-old Celtic fan coming to Ibrox and playing centre-back in a decimated back line. Not easy. Same with Bergvall. Young man came into the middle of the park. Benton Kerr was so poor tonight. I'm such a huge fan of his. He was so poor, and we needed you tonight, man, and you let us down. You know, you've not been playing in the Premier League, and we really needed you, man, to shoulder some responsibility. And you really let us down this evening. I was enormously disappointed with him. Pretty disappointed across the board, just with our profligacy in possession. The passing tonight was below amateur standard. I was talking to my friend, I mentioned him last week, my friend Tom Kavanagh, a big Tottenham fan, lives around the corner from me. We play together every Friday. And I was like, bro, do we pass better than this current Tottenham team? I would like to see, I don't know if anyone would have that stat. They've got stats for everything. Like how many times we just give away the ball needlessly? Like, you know, in tennis, when they show unforced errors, like how many times do we give the ball needlessly away? Shocking performance. But listen, we've come away with a point. We've got exactly the same stats as those. 3 wins, a draw, and a loss, or 3 wins, a draw, and 2 losses. So big up, Ray. Fist bump you, mate. We've got it all to do in the next couple of games. Let's see. Let's see, guys. Let's see. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, I mean, look, TJ, many, I think, echoing those words there with regards to the performance and the result. And you made that point there. I think I have to agree with you. I think Bergvall's introduction, you know, to be honest with you, I think he really was one of the shining lights of that game, as again was Fraser Forster. I think Fraser Forster, since he's come in for Tottenham, due to, of course, that Vicario injury, he's made some unbelievable saves in that Spurs goal. And again, you look at his performance, along, of course, with Dejan Kulusevski, you know, almost a given now that Dejan Kulusevski is going to come in, change a game, turn it around. And I think it says it all that when you're looking at Kulusevski in general, Kulusevski on the night actually created the most amount of chances of any Tottenham player. And he was only on the field for 45 minutes, which kind of tells you everything about Dejan Kulusevski's mindset, his ability, his belief, his core determination to really push Spurs on during that game. And you know what? I have to make that point, you know, coming over to you, Miles, that, look, a decent spell in that last 20 minutes from Spurs in that second half, but we have to be honest and say that we did not deserve to win that game. And, you know, we'll come on, of course, this big manager debate. We know, of course, Spurs are in the midst of a rebuild. It's not their preferred 11. It certainly is when you look at the decimation of our squad. What's the main takeaways, Miles, if there's any takeaways from you from that game up at Ibrox?
First of all, everyone owes Fraser Forster an apology, right? Because when Vicario got injured, everyone was all going, oh, this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of apology forms out there. Now, I've got the positive bit out of the way. Let's get into this. Rangers are poor. Yeah? They are so poor, right? Our front six, we can use injuries as an excuse. But our front six, so that's the midfield 3 and the front 3, were the same lot that finished last season, right? So they're not players that, you know, are coming into it for the first time. Only 2 people out of that squad today, or 3, that can sit there and go, they wasn't really part of what happened last season, was Archie Gray at centre-back, Dragushin and Forster. But most of that team has played together before, and yet they put out that performance. Now, there was no effort. It was bad passes, and Rangers weren't even that good, right? It was just the fact we were that poor. And I've got no more excuses for the 11 that he put out there, because everyone's using injuries. But let's look back at last season and go back to them last 10 games where we were losing. Most of them players were there. Some was playing up top. So the fact that we've gone to Rangers, which everyone calls a pub league, everyone's going, you know, especially everyone that talks about the Scottish League, and that's the performance we put in. No, we can't be happy with that. We've got to put this club on a bigger pedestal than that. That was shocking. And I think that everyone's got to look at that. Rangers have got a big game on Sunday as well against Celtic. And that team that they put out today it was a mishmash of first teamers and second teamers. And same with us. If we went and look, let's look at it like this. If Liverpool, Manchester City, right, depending on what Manchester City right now, Arsenal and them lot went and played Rangers tonight, they would have beat them, even with their second team. So that's how far behind we are.
Can I say also, Miles, to let you carry on, Rangers actually made changes because they're saving themselves for a cup final at the weekend.
For a cup final. So this is why I'm not looking at this game. And I try to be as positive as possible. But I looked at this game and I went, all they had to do was show some effort. Look, as TJ said, they have to keep the ball, right? But I'm not sitting there and going tonight that I'm seeing any positives from that. And the fact is, even Ange, right, he was very animated on the touchline. So you could clearly see everything was going wrong. But then he goes and he changes it up, but he doesn't exactly change the tactics. He's kind of hoping that the tactics will work with the different players. And to be fair, Bergvall came on, controlled the game a little bit. Kulu for me was quite poor, but he did score the goal, so I can't really vouch for him for that. But everyone else was really, really poor. And I'm looking at this going, this is Tottenham Hotspur, right? This is a team that wants to play in the Champions League. And if that's what we have to sit there and watch, and they're not going to put the application or effort in, and they can't pass the ball, what are we doing here as a football club? Like, seriously. And that's the questions we kind of need to ask. We as fans need to start putting pressure on this team, because they can't be putting in performances like that. Look, I took Chelsea. I threw that to one side because we never beat Chelsea. But let's bring up some stats right now where we're at. Right, that's 1 win in 8. Right, that we've had. Right, 0 wins in the Europa League for the last 3 games. Right, there's 1 win in 5 in the Premier League. Lost 5 out of 9 Premier League games so far, and we're in the bottom half of the table. Come on, this is not the Spurs we signed up for. And I'm looking at it going, can I see a turning point right now? I don't know. Look, I'm not into sacking Ange, right? That's where I said on the last show, I'll give him to January. But right now, this is not. If this is the rough patch, I'm really hoping we're going to turn a corner soon, because this is not great. And everyone kept telling me that Ange Ball going forward was going to be great football and was going to be this and this, that, and the other. But it's been in patches. Right, because everyone was moaning about Conte, but it was patches of Conte where we played good football. And the same was with Ange, right? There's been patches this season where we've been great, and there's been patches that we've been, what are we watching? So it's come on, we need to start asking questions. This performance was uncalled for, and I was expecting a lot better from the team. And I know we've got to review Southampton later, but I'm worried. I'm so worried at the moment.
Can I say for my sake and all of our sake, we're not reviewing Southampton yet. God, please tell me, it's just a preview, right? You're not going to make us review that as well, are you? I don't think I'll survive it.
No, but we have to call it out. We can't. We have to call this performance out and go, it wasn't good enough. And yes, there was. Look, we've come away with a draw. This performance reminded me very much of Coventry for how poor we were in that game, and we just about got the win. And it was very, very similar. And I'm looking at going, well, at least with Coventry, there was an excuse there. There was a lot of changes. But half of this team has played together, right? Yep. I'm not going to sit there and, Archie Gray, at the end of the day, I'm going to do the same as I did with Emerson. They're playing out of position. I can't exactly expect much from them. But Dragushin was up and down tonight. But that's why I said Fraser Forster was the only one for me that come out of this game, and he's kept us in it again. And I think I don't know how true this stat is, but we have faced 200 shots in the last 10 games.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is concerning.
It's actually over 200 in the last.
There you go. That's concerning for me. Yeah. When you look at when we're meant to be this Ange Ball and we're meant to be doing this, that, and the other, it's like, where do we go from here? I'm just really hoping. I'm looking for the positive people here, right? They've really got to turn me around and go, things will get better. Because at the moment, I'm just seeing us go further and further in that negative direction. And I'm just kind of like, come on, Spurs, do me a favour.
Well, I can tell you.
I'll hand it back to you, Ricky.
If we don't feel better after this show, if TJ and Hartman are here, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. What we are going to do for a second is, before we break away and hear from Ange Postecoglou directly after that game, I think, we're well aware and acutely aware that, with all due respect, some of the quality, well, you can't even call it quality, the caliber of players out there, with all due respect, are either not up to the level, or I don't like using this word as players, because you know what? This is their profession. They've trained many years to do this. When I say are trying, this is my biggest concern, that I watched that game, for a good 60, 70 minutes, and that word of trying effort, is it not actually understanding what the instructions are being told to do? Is it the fact they don't feel comfortable in their position? Marlon, you made a point, of course, of players being played out of position. But my worry is that, in general, there seems to be a real drop-off in terms of not just the quality, but the actual intensity and the way we go about our football. And that is our biggest concern. Look, We're going to hear directly from Ange Postecoglou now, who's going to give you his reaction on the back of that performance and that result. And we're going to come back to you straight after Ange has given his thoughts. So I'm going to try and bring in Ange's comments right now. Please bear with us a second. We're going to try and bring that into the show. And we are going to come back with you once we have heard from Ange Postecoglou. Let's go to Ange, and we'll be back after this clip.
Well, Ange, how do you assess that performance tonight?
Look, it was as expected in terms of the context of the game. A tough game. Obviously, crowd and the atmosphere you got to deal with. Tight first half, I think both sides. Not too many clear-cut chances. Then they score straight after half time, and then you kind of know you got a mountain to climb after that. Crowd gets behind it, but I thought we worked our way back into the game and scored a good goal, and then big save by Fraser in the end. And I think in terms of our European season, a really important point.
I was going to say that. I mean, Fraser Forster's had to come in, and when called upon tonight, he was excellent. And the subs really made a difference, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Look, we had to sort of rotate tonight. It's no secret the issues we got at the moment in terms of injuries, and there's guys like Tom and Decky who have played a hell of a lot of football, and we've got to protect them a little bit. But I thought they made a difference. I thought Lucas Bergvall was excellent when he came on as well, 18-year-old, which is a great thing for us. Guys like Archie and Lucas, these 18-year-olds to be getting through, experiences like this is a positive.
Dejan said after the game he just didn't think the Tottenham players had hit a high enough level this evening. I mean, why do you think that is? Do you feel there's a lack of confidence, or is it merely just the situation at the moment?
Yeah, look, I think it's kind of the situation at the moment that we're in. It's fair to say we're in a bit of a struggle, and being down on numbers, the players understand that we're a lot of them are asking for a lot of repeated efforts, and it takes its toll. But like I said, we hung in there tonight, which is important. The next round of the European games aren't now for a while, which will help us for sure. So, like I said, I think when we look back on it, I think it'll be an important point for us.
Absolutely. And then looking ahead to the weekend, another huge game for you, isn't it? Away from home, and you've got to go again to try and get back to winning ways. Yeah,
that's it. And it's a big week for us this week. Southampton Sunday's a massive game away, and then we've got Carabao Cup quarterfinal at home against Man-U, then Liverpool. So it's a great week for us to kind of build into. As I said, thankfully tonight everyone got through unscathed, and focus on Sunday now.
Thank you. Well done.
Well, there you go. That was the thoughts of Ange Postecoglou on the back of that 1-1 draw against Rangers at Ibrox, which, again, I'll repeat that point. See, Spurs remain outside of the current European automatic qualifying places, and it does mean Spurs go into those final two games of course, the standard Europa League grouping, where they will arguably need to win at least one of them, if not both, to try and secure a top 8 finish. If Tottenham obviously don't do that, they will fall into a place where they will be in a playoff. It means there'll be an extra couple of games that Spurs will have to face, in which, of course, they will need to win those games to progress. It's really as simple as that. And at a point, as we said, that Spurs started their Europa League campaign so well, and we're pretty much, looking like they were going to qualify with games to spare in true typical Tottenham fashion. That suddenly is becoming a little bit more concerning, questionable, and up in the air. I think what's also really important that I bring to you is that Ange Postecoglou has also just been speaking to the written press, where he's been giving his thoughts overall on the performances, in particular of Timo Werner and Lucas Bergvall. Really interesting comments coming in from Ange Postecoglou. Firstly, just on Timo Werner, Ange says, in the moment we're in right now, I need everyone to be at least going out there and giving their absolute best they can. What he produced wasn't acceptable. When I'm asking the younger players to do massive jobs, I expect more from the senior players like him. So really, really strong words there from Ange Postecoglou on Timo Werner. We'll come on to those words from him shortly. And he's also been speaking about Archie Gray's performance in that game. And Ange says that Lucas Bergvall would have started, but he was ill. He still made himself available as a substitute during the game. And he said, I thought Lucas was excellent when he came on and essentially really helped Tottenham during that game, really find a way to come away with at least a point. So strong words there from Ange Postecoglou on Timo Werner. I will just come to, if I can, Dow on that. I mean, Dow, look, there's been an argument to say that during his Tottenham reign, he's very much protected the players, but that protection seems to have really now, to some degree, evaporated, especially on Timo Werner's case. What do you make of the fact that he's publicly gone out to criticise Werner, and how do you feel the fallout will be from that? Whose comments?
I think as managers, you're around the players all the time, so you understand their character. And sometimes you can be talking to someone in their ear for a period of time and it's not working. And sometimes you've got to publicly expose what's going on. And maybe that's what is their fuel. He's trying to get Werner to play. We all want Werner to play. Everyone's trying to get the Werner that we've seen before. But it's not happening. It's not happening. And today was another game when it wasn't happening. I think Ange may be going, okay, you know what? I've got to say what I see. And I've got to let the fans know I'm seeing it as well. And I've got to let Timo know that he has got to step up. Today was a day for the senior players to step up. And I know we're talking about the same 11 and the same players playing a lot and who's played, who's not. As Marlon quite rightly pointed out, these guys know each other. They play together. Some of them are probably a little bit leggy right now. And that's fair. That's fair play. I'll look at Udogie and I'll look at Pedro Porro and go, they look leggy right now, especially when you're playing handball and you're forever playing that high line. So that sprint back and that turn back is going to be hard, especially when you haven't got a Van der Ven near you who's got the turbo, where you can go, I can't make it, he will. That's a saving grace. So that's an element that is concerning. And you can see why there's going to be fall-off in our levels of performance. But I think calling out Werner is the right thing to do, because it may be the fuel that he needs. He's trying everything to get a performance out of him, which isn't happening. And I think of today's performance, you've got to look at someone like Brennan Johnson and go, he's on the cusp for a call-out as well, because what he's done in goals is great, but there were so many moments today where you're a winger. Put the ball in the box, beat your man, and he doesn't.
Take the player on.
Yeah, and he doesn't do that. And I think that's going to be frustrating for a manager. It's clearly frustrating for us as fans, because you can see he's got we know he's got the pace. And you look at Rangers today, and as Marlon highlighted about, they're not a great side. They've got another game going on. I know that TJ, you were saying that it's a big game for them. It's when they put in a performance. And Spurs, we always find ourselves in these situations where team perform when we arrive. And I think I'm waiting for us to start doing that. When are we going to start performing? When it's our time to turn up? Because Southampton are going to turn up. We know what's happening at the weekend.
We know it.
They're going to turn up. And I feel that I look, and that's where I look at the leadership on the pitch. Who is leading on the pitch? The last time I was on, I started to look at this, and I've really looked at it more and more, and I'm worried about the leadership in our side, because there's not leaders, and it's leaders where games like today where they want the ball. The man who goes, give it to me, I'm going to make it work. And Bertwell came on and he gave it a go. He's sick, he's young, but he wanted to. Kulu can't be the man responsible for it every time. No. And he's one that, and what happens with Kulu is sometimes he works against himself, because he gets the ball and he doesn't want to pass it. He wants to run past free. He wants to travel it all the way and go, brother, sometimes you've got to free up the pass and give yourself a bit of space. But who are you trusting? Because you give it to Timo and it's lost. You give it to Brennan, he's not taking on a man. And you're trying to find Dom and you're going, I've got to do a worldly pass right now because Dom's playing so close to me because he wants to get involved. There's so many elements of us right now that just isn't clicking. And to try and find the positivity in it, it's bad right now, but we're still involved in everything. We're still involved in this European competition. These games that we've got to play, we should win these.
I'm nervously laughing now. I'm sorry.
I feel you. You know me. I've got to find it. I've got to find something to go. We're still in Europe. We've still got the opportunity to win a cup this year. The potential is there. We've not blown everything out of the park for ourselves. So if we go up 10%, who knows what we could do? If we go down 5%, we're screwing ourselves. It's so much in our hands. So much in our hands.
Can I just say, before I come over to Marlon, I'm not sure if TJ is praying or that's just his handstands at the moment. I tell you. Miles, I want to come over to you just on, I know, mate, I know. Just on Timo Werner. I mean, look, those words will send shockwaves, you'd imagine, to the player himself. But what's quite interesting, if you remember, I mean, it's only 24 hours ago in Andy's presser, he was saying, I wouldn't criticise a player or anyone else. We shouldn't be doing that in a public sense. He's then 24 hours later said, Werner, he wasn't playing anywhere near the levels he can. When you've got 18-year-olds that are playing the way they're playing, his performance is not acceptable to me. I told him that he's a senior German international. What's your take on those comments from Ange there on Werner for you, Miles?
get out of jail free card, because he knows if he criticises Werner, the fans will go, "Finally, you've finally done it." There are other players.
Miles, he brought him back. He brought
I
him
know
back.
this is the bit that's really worrying about why he's
He chose
criticised
to
him tonight.
re-sign him. He chose to re-sign him.
And this is what I'm looking at. Why tonight, of all places, if he chose to criticise him? Because actually, the performance I saw from Werner tonight was the exact same performance I've seen from Werner in the last couple of months. They've been no different. So why tonight? Because, as Dal says, there are other players that could have been criticised tonight that probably should be, right? He's already gone after Maddison. He's probably a bit too scared to criticise Brennan Johnson. Son obviously wasn't on his game, right? Because he gave the ball away too many times. Porro and Udogie, I agree with everyone. They have just been overplayed, and some their performance. I thought this was Porro's poorest performance in the Spurs shirt. But why pick on Werner tonight of all places? It's for me, it's a bit like when he started Romero and Van der Ven on Sunday. He's getting desperate a little bit, and that's what's worrying me, because he knows after the Bournemouth game, the fans were at him, right? As we saw. So he knew clearly criticising Werner, he can keep us on side for like a couple more days. So look, at the end of the day, I'm just going through a moment at this present moment with the club and with the fans. And we've just, look, you can clearly see even by everyone in the chat tonight, it's very split on who wants him here and who doesn't. However, I think all of us have just got to take this moment. And as Dal said, we are still in 3 competitions, right? Forget the Premier League. We are still in the others. So that Man United game is becoming bigger and bigger as the games go on. So look, it is what it is. But just to come out and criticize Werner, it's just, for me, it's a desperate tactic at the moment. So hopefully we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, because if he puts him on the bench or he plays him again, then he hasn't. Look, he's a German international, but he's not a German international of recent. It's not like he's suddenly gone back into Germany's squad. No, because everyone's realised he's a very poor player, right? And when I say poor player, he gets in some great positions, but he can't finish. It's very rare that he beats the man and then he plays it in the box.
Yep.
But so this is the Werner we've seen all season. So I don't get it. I really don't get why tonight you've gone after him out of all the players, because at the end of the day, same Werner that we've seen the last few weeks. But look, he's called him out. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll give a rocket up the arse for Werner because it's done in public now. So we've now heard it. But let's wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, just to close on this particular topic with you, TJ, if I can. Look, I'm sure there'll be more comments from Andrew going to bring in during this show as we do roll here. Number one, I'll come to you on that point, TJ, as Miles picked up on there. Can you understand the criticism with all due respect? That's pretty much been the standard par performance that Werner's pretty much given us since, really, with all due respect, he has come back to the club. And again, we'll make that point that unless someone tells us otherwise and we don't understand it, because Andrew's made it very clear, he approves every player. By the token of the fact you saw him last season, this man has chosen to bring him back to the football club. Many a split. Is this a clever message that it sends to the rest of the senior players? You're not going to get away with those performances? Or is Marlon says there, is Werner quite simply an easy target in this situation? Because again, this is a player that, with all due respect, has split the fan base so much during, really at the point he joined the football club on the first initial loan.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Marlon said. I thought the timing of the criticism was extraordinary. What do you expect? He's not a good player. He never has been. So just a couple of things on Timo, actually on Johnson as well. And I've leapt to Johnson's defence so many times, and I do rate Johnson. And listen, we have to give him his propers. He's still our top scorer. However, the problem is that having 2 wide men, neither of them are capable of taking on a man. That's enormously problematic. Enormously problematic. That's kind of your job. Like, if you can't beat a right back or a left back and whip across into the box, you shouldn't be playing out wide in the front 3. the only time that Timo ever gets into positions, and again, Marlon's right. You said it before, Rick, Darren, you've said it, I've said it. I'm sure all the viewers and listeners have said it countless times. Like Timo, gets into those positions and does well, but that's because his only discernible talent is speed. If we're looking for speed, just go down to the sprint track and bring in a sprinter. Go, listen, man, how fast are you? Oh, I do sort of 10 and a half, 11. Wicked, man. Come and play for Tottenham. I'm not really a footballer. No worries. Neither is Timo, that he's fast. Like, we have to have somebody who offers us more than speed. Unless you leave him kind of 30 yards behind you and he can run into it, he offers us nothing. The amount of times that we get the ball out wide and it just disappears. It disappears over the touchline. And again, I'm looking at that going, bro, I can do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can bring the ball under control and knock it past a right back. And so calling him out tonight was bizarre. So that's what it makes me think, Rick. Ange, did you just show us your hand, bro? Like last time I was on the show, I did a poker analogy, right? On tilts. Did you just show us your hand? So did you not approve Timo coming back again? Was there other people saying, listen, man, I know his wages are high, but he costs us nothing. And by the way, I'm not going to buy you Pedro Neto. I already didn't buy you Leandro Trossard. And I'm not going to buy you those other senior players that were definitely on your list that I didn't bring in. John Lily-White Rose, right? Big friend of the show and a lovely guy. He posted such a fantastic post about 7 or 8 senior players between 24 and 27 that Ange very publicly wanted to bring in. He got one of them. So it was weird timing, but maybe it wasn't. We already know that Ange is a very intelligent man. Maybe that was kind of a coded, not so coded message to the fans. He wasn't mine, lads. I didn't want this geezer. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's that. I think it's yet more pressure on the board that come January, you cannot hide, because if you sack the manager, we're all going to see you. We know what you're doing. You are taking cover behind the manager. Ange has played this very cleverly. So have the senior players who've come out very publicly and supported him. And didn't we love them for that? Not enough players do that, man. And so I think Ange and the players have positioned themselves where leaving the board, if they don't start writing checks come January, and proper checks, then we will see them for who they are and we won't blame Ange. Even those guys who are Ange out won't blame him.
Look, I've got to say, we're having lots of listener, viewer questions coming into the show here. I'll just give a flavour of what we had in here. The Spurs script says Johnson and Werner walk into Rangers' side. So why did we go on and draw the game? Kevin Rogers says here, guys, can we please talk about the incomplete passes? I think, Tidge, you brought this up at the start. Yeah. You said you'd love to see a stat of the amount of passes that have really been forced upon no error.
Amateur level, Kevin. Amateur level passing. The amount of turnovers. I'd love to see that stat. And I reckon, I was talking to my brother earlier, he was saying, if we looked like needless turnovers in the league, in the Premier League, I bet we'd be in the top 3. We'd be up there with like Southampton and Wolves, maybe even first. The amount of times we give the ball away needlessly is startling to me. Sorry to jump on you, Rick.
No, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. And Kevin just finishes off there saying, why are we giving away that ball so much? Is it the system or is it simply a lack of quality? I mean, look, we have to again acknowledge the fact we know Spurs are without a huge amount of first-team players right now. But the point I made at the very, very top of this show, and I will maintain that point, you can be without players. You can be without your superstars. But for me, what I genuinely just don't understand is the lack of effort, application, and desire for a good 70 minutes of that game. Yes, towards the end of the game, we looked like a side that were ready to fight and to battle. And that's what I can't quite understand. Many talk about fatigue in this team. If it was fatigue, why did we start so poorly, but then get better at the end of the game? That's what I'm really struggling at the moment. And again, I'll make that point. Everybody's not stupid. It's 1 win in 8, as Marlon said. This is a manager that's under serious pressure. And Postecoglou knows he's under serious pressure. Hence why he put Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero in the side for the Chelsea game. So the players must know that. And I'm sure the one thing he's instilling and he's drilling into every single player before he goes out there is the fact we need to perform. We need to show the players and the staff and everybody we are united. And quite frankly, at the moment, I think what I'm sure we can all agree on at the moment is that for a good 60 to 70 minutes that game, it was very much, disunited, or if it's even a word, there is no real feeling at the moment that we are together, that we are fighting, that to back to Dow's point, there's any leaders on the pitch. So it's really hard at the moment, I think, to try and come up with a case where we can defend this. But again, I will appreciate that after this many, many times, that this is not all Ange Postecoglou's fault. You know, I keep on repeating this point on every show. This isn't all Ange Postecoglou's fault. It isn't. Has he been given all the players that he wants? No. But when does any manager get given any of the players they want at Spurs? The key to being, I can't even use that word, successful at the club, because we haven't won anything for 15, 20 years. But the key, I think, the key ingredient to being a Spurs manager that many fans grab onto and adore, and I go back to Pochettino's reign, is that he got the absolute maximum out of pretty much every player from year 2 to 4 that he had in his side. He coached them to be better. They grew as players. They grew as a team. With all due respect, I don't see enough players being coached to a better level. And yes, with all due respect, I know we've got injuries right now, but I think it's really important that we do have this debate to understand where you guys are right now on the manager if we can. And I will start, TJ, with you if you don't mind. Look, 1 win in 8, 4 away wins in 12 months, 9 home defeats in 12 months as well. It's a 41 win ratio since the Chelsea game of last November. And Tottenham in, like I say, the Premier League since then. It's 43 matches played, 18 wins, 6 draws, 19 defeats, 83 goals scored, 70 goals conceded. It's an average of 56 points. If you spread that across our whole season, that would have Spurs really mid-table at the moment. They have taken only 2 points from 18 in the Premier League. Palace, Ipswich, Fulham, Leicester, Brighton, Bournemouth. Again, 7 defeats in 15 games in the league. Only the bottom 3 do have more at the moment. I know you've been very much steadfast behind the manager. Do you remain exactly in that same position that you were only a week or so ago for you? Can you see him getting it right with better players and a better caliber of players to really enhance the squad?
They're almost different questions, Rick, because we're in such a precarious position right now. We need clarity. You know, we need clarity on what it is that we're talking about. And obviously, you and I speak regularly. You know what I mean? And am I Ange in? Yes. Do I think he's the right guy for Tottenham? That I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. But I think it hurts us more to get rid of him now than it does to stick with him and give him a chance. We were talking just before we came on the show. Love Chatty Patty, right? Patrick Tyrant, lovely guy. I really respect and admire his opinions on so many things. And when I was listening to the show you guys were on last week, you know, Patrick was never enamored by Ange, right? But like all good, decent, loyal Tottenham supporters, like, okay, he's the guy, I'm going to get behind him 100%. And he hasn't wavered from that. And so the thing is that what Patrick said, and I'm going to echo him, big up Patrick, is that he said, listen, this is 100% a rebuild that has fallen onto Ange because the rebuilds that should have come 5 years ago didn't. So we've just brought in a whole bunch of really young players that are playing the complete antithesis to the manager that was just in before. People need to remember that. We've gone from playing the style of football with the brakes and the handbrake on, wearing the seat belts and wearing, like, you know, and a roll cage, to somebody who wants to play all-out attacking football. Also, please bear in mind the psychological and real-time practical impact of losing our best ever player in the history of the club, who of course brings at least 20 goals a season and formed the most devastating duo the Premier League has ever seen, ever. So that affects us. So am I the biggest fan of Ange? Do I think that he's the greatest manager that we're ever going to have? No, but getting rid of him, I do believe, hurts us more. His system takes confidence and it takes precision. It takes guile and it takes courage. And so many of our players are lacking that now, which is why myself, these wonderful panelists, you, Ricky, and our fantastic listeners and viewers are calling out for leadership. We need leadership on the pitch, somebody who can galvanize these players and go, come on, guys, let's pick up the standard. Let's make sure we complete our passes. Again, when I play on a Friday night, if our passes are going adrift, I always say, you know what, Ricky, when you pass me the ball, say TJ. When I pass you the ball, Darren, I'll say Darren. When I pass it to you, Marlon, I'll say Marlon, just to make sure that you know where it's coming from. Let's do a little bit of that. Basic. Let's do day one football. If we can't complete 10-yard passes, let's do that. And if that doesn't happen after January, maybe at the end of the season, then we'll have another look at Ange.
Look, again, it's a very, like I say, interesting debate at the moment. And I'm sure, like I say, it's really splitting the Spurs fan base. I mean, I make that point, Miles, come over to you, that at the moment, the way Spurs are playing, and again, I will make this point that I have made throughout, during this tricky spell for him, he's not had his first 11 available to him. He's not had the ability or the luxury of being able to play a frequent and a fluent side like he was able to in the first 10 games of his reign of last season, where quite honestly, as we know, in those first 10 games of last season, he didn't change the back four, didn't change the goalkeeper. I take all that into account. And I also understand, again, with the transfer market, I think as this board have done with many other managers, I think they have failed in completely when it comes to the players that he's been allocated and given. And I do believe, look, conscious of what people say, that I think he did and want more from the window. I can't believe anybody wouldn't want more. But I think when you've got, TJ, an element of players being played out of position, the fact that there was, for me in that game, especially in that opening hour, a lot of players for me, I don't use that word bottling, but they weren't for me going full thrust into that game, going for every challenge and convincing themselves to every single moment in that game. Does it feel like for you the players are still 100% behind him and they're playing for the manager, in your opinion?
I don't know. I do think you're right. There was a lot of 50-50 challenges that a lot of them weren't going into tonight. And I was like, really? Like this, if you're really behind the manager, you'd literally go full throttle and be like, no, we're going to play for this man. But I look at like the Chelsea game as well, and it's the team are just not clicking. There's so many faults. Like, yes, I get the board haven't backed him completely, but there's so many things that Ange doesn't do in-game management that is costing him at the moment. Like, he's not tweaking things, he's not changing things. Like, let's take Brighton, the game at half-time. Everyone could clearly see in the first 10 minutes Brighton were coming into that game, but he didn't make any changes. He made them suffer. As he says, he makes them suffer. You can't do that in the Premier League. And I think that's what the big thing is at the moment, that all of us have watched the Premier League football for how many years? Ange is coming into it going, I'm going to reinvent the wheel. And it's like, Ange, you can't really do that. Just look at Southampton. Southampton are a prime example. If you don't have the players, you cannot play that type of football. You've got to adjust sometimes and adjust to the situation you're in. Even Pep does it on the odd occasions. He does adjust to the situation he's in. But what Ange is doing right now, he's going, and he's played these cards. Everyone in the media is going, yes, Ange is going to play one way and one way only. And unfortunately, if he's going to do that and he's going to come out and say that, you've got managers in the Premier League and better players that you're going to be playing against, and they're going to be they're going to be a bit more clever than what he's used to. And that's what the problem is at the moment. He's never going to get all the players that he wants, and that's always going to be an issue at Tottenham Hotspur. But he's got, if we looked at this team right now and we said, should they be playing a lot better than they are at the moment, I think we'd all agree they should be. And that for me is down to Ange at the moment. I'm not Ange out, by the way, but I'm going to criticize him when it happens. So I'm looking at tonight and I'm going, why are they not playing for him? Why are they only going in to challenges half-hearted? If I look at the starting lineup tonight, to swap Solanke out with Werner, and it's only really Van der Ven, Van der Ven, Romero, and Vicario that's really missing from that starting 11. You might even swap Sarr out. So it's not like, I know we've been injury hit, but it's not like it's all our first team players. Most of them were out there tonight, and yet they're still putting in that performance, which is worrying. But they've got, look, there's a lot of games coming up. It's not going to get any easier, and they've got to do something. If they are playing for this manager, they've got to show us. Because even against Chelsea on Sunday, if it wasn't for Cucurella's mistakes, that was a different game, and we could have lost that by a lot more. But look, the players have got to show now. They've just got to really show that they're behind him, and Ange kind of needs to go. I don't really understand why his coaching staff are not helping him out either, because they must clearly see what's going on. Unless they're kind of blind to it and they're not giving him any advice, because this can't go on for too long, because he's playing himself into a hole. And I think you can clearly see a lot of people are not trusting it, because if I said to a lot of people now in the chat, would you trust Ange to go out and spend the money in January? A lot of people would go, I wouldn't even trust him to even take that money, because where's he going to spend it? Is he going to spend it wisely at the moment? So Ange has got to change his ways as well, and has got to adjust.
You know what? Look, again, I'll make this point with Rangers and that game in general. In normal circumstances, a point away at Rangers in that kind of atmosphere with a 11 that is pretty much a rotational 11, and the fact we've been decimated by injury, I would look at that and think that's it's not a terrible result. It's not a horrendous result, but it's the nature of the way in which that game played out for me, especially in that opening 60 to 70 minutes, that was really concerning me and really worrying me. And again, like, I'll be honest with you, I'm a Spurs fan, right? Coming over to you, Dal. We can take losing. Well, I mean, it's with all due respect. We're used to losing, right? But there's a way you lose games. There's a way you play games. And this is my biggest concern for me at the moment. I'm watching us, we're trying to watch us at the moment. Well, that's killing us. I'm watching this team, and there is no cohesion, which again, you'll put down to the fact we've got a lot of injuries. Yes, I get that. There's no fluidity, which you put down to the fact we've not got the same 11. Yes, I understand that. But when I'm sitting there and I'm questioning, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record here. I'm so sorry for those that are listening back to this on the rerun again, and for the watching audience here. The lack of application, effort, desire, that for me is the absolute bare minimum. The bare minimum I expect from a footballer playing for Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, am I really setting the bar that high to just expect effort, commitment, desire, application? I just don't think I am. I really don't think I am. And again, I'll make that point for me. You know what? If that is a team that is playing for the manager in that opening hour, my God, I would dread to think what a team looks like if they're not playing for the manager at the moment. I'm numb from it at the moment. I'll make that point. I said it at the last couple of shows. I'm so sorry if many are feeling that I'm so disconnected right now. I love you all. I love doing Last Word on Spurs. I love interacting with you amazing people that I see in the street every day. But I'll always try and call things as I see them. And I just, at the moment for me, I'm not seeing the players buying into what they're being asked to do, whether they're listening to the instruction. And I'll make that point again, Dan. I will hand over to you now. I'm so sorry. But the way in which Ange wants to play requires every single player to have an unbelievable stamina and, with all due respect, outrun the opponents. Now, if you're going to play that way, that means there's really only two options. You're, number one, either going to sign better players to be able to play that way, or we're going to transform the football club and try and be a side that have got a vision to compete right now at this moment. I don't see either happening at this present moment in time. So when you're looking at this, when you're watching this, when you're seeing it tactically, you tell me what you're seeing right now. Can you see that word progression? Can you see players improving? Can you see them being coached to see these players are actually getting better than when Ange first started during his reign? And again, I'll make that point. I know there's injuries, but we can only judge it on the 11 men that go out on that field and perform week after week. Injuries aside, I think we have to judge it as well on effort and application of the 11 that are playing. I'll shut up now and I'll hand over to you, Dale. Sorry.
I'll take it. Strap yourself in. Could you give me so much? I've got a breakdown. All right, cool. So when you ask about coaching, are we seeing players improving? This is where Spurs fans, we hold on to passion and what we remember. We remember when we had Pochettino, who was a coach. He was a man who coached and improved and brought players up from levels that they weren't at and got a system that we loved and had the fans excited. It was lovely. He was a coach. Ange is a manager. And that's where we have to look at what his coaches are doing. If we're going to be in this kind of world where Spurs are going to buy young and hopefully look for them to improve, if that's what we're doing, there's got to be a level of coaching that is there that Ange can go, I know you can get these players to play my system. The system is stated. It's very clear. We all can see it. We all know what he wants. When it works, it works. And we've seen it. We've had the games where we've seen it work. And that's what I want to remind our fans. It's not like it doesn't work. We're not there going, this has never worked. It's never going to work. When it works, we look good. And when it doesn't work, we look bad. But that's got so many other elements in it. And it comes down to part of this is the squad. Because we don't have a like-for-like replacement for a Van der Ven. because a Van der Ven is so crucial to a high line when you know you've got a speed merchant who will cover. If we don't have that, the line is then jeopardized. Everyone now is panicked. Everyone now is concerned. If the holding midfielder isn't doing his job, if we're not pressing the ball and we're allowing, like we did today, centre halves to have 4, 5, 6 touches before they play it long, we're always going to create a problem for ourselves. So all these elements in game, if the system is not being played to its best, it will fail. So that's part of the problem we have. Now, are the players buying into the system? Are they buying into Ange? As I stated earlier, if they're not, I'm not here, and the first thing I'm going to do is shoot down Ange. I know people have said I've been Ange in all the way. I am, because I can't pull the plug on this project unless someone in the chats in the world can tell me what is the other option. I'm not going to pull a plug on something with no other option. Let's see it through. Let's give it the legs it needs. And put himself out there and said, I'm going to win something this season. That's what I do in my second season. The season ain't over yet. Let him fulfill his prophecy or fall on his own sword. And then he has to come out and go, it didn't work because X, Y, and Z. That's the deal. That's where I'm at. Then we look at our board, the Levy out crew. I hear you loud. What we have to then look at is, what is the setup then we have? If he goes, what do we bring in next? How did that change? We don't know what is around the corner. That grass is greener at attitude could be dangerous for us right now. So we've got to be mindful of what we're doing here. We've got to have a little bit more caution in the big moves that we do, because right now it's such a weird place for us to be. And I'm going to say something that I've been thinking about for weeks. Our expectations of fans is very high. We set the bar for this Tottenham side very high. Andrew said he wants to win a trophy. We're talking about we want to be in the Champions League, want to be competing, we want to be the best. We don't have a squad to do that. We're not the best. We're not competing with City. It burns me to say it right now, and I'm going to say it's going to burn my throat. We're not competing with Arsenal right now. We've got to be a little bit realistic. And I think that's a hard pill for every Spurs fan to take. That's a hard one because we want to be there. We've smelt it, we felt it, we know we can achieve it. But right now, we don't have all the factors in place to do it. And that's annoying. That makes us have nights like tonight where we're vexed. Because we look at a Rangers side and go, we should be beating them because we've got it. But we're not doing it because the squad weren't doing it and the players didn't do it. As fans, all the ones who travelled to Scotland, big up yourselves. Because we could hear you. We felt what you were trying to do. I know how vexed you are on that 6-hour train. I've done it. I've been on it. It's 6 hours. It's horrible. You men are going to be drunk as skunks because you're going to be raging. And I get it. But right now, this is where I think end of the season clarity, we've got to take our time. Spurs fans, we cannot be knee-jerk. The way I look at this, and I always say football is a relationship. We chose this. This is our girlfriend. This is our boyfriend. Whatever. This is our love.
Yeah, now the
it's our love, Rick. No,
you
Rick,
get a choice relationship. We don't get a choice with this club. We can't walk away.
So, Rick, exactly that. When it's our relationship and we're not walking away from it, we have to fight for it. We can't always hate it and throw out the bits that we don't love. We've got to find the reason why we're stuck in this relationship, because we do love this. I'm still wearing the colours. It doesn't matter. I have to love this. So I've got to find the love. And right now, we're all looking at the negatives far too quickly. We can see what's bad, but let's all try and find that 1%. That 1% of a positive, that 1% of a push forward. We've got to try. What harm does it do? What harm does it do?
No, I will, as I said, make this very many clear on last word on Spurs shows that when I'm away from Tottenham, I'm a really, really positive person. I tell my kids they can reach for the stars. I tell them they can do whatever they want to believe in our lives. And Marlon is also there putting his thumbs up. And I know Dow's the same, bless him. And TJ, with what he's done in his life, you know, I think we've got people on this show that are incredibly positive in their mindset and incredibly positive in what they do. I just look at the football club that are quite simply existing right now, with all due respect, with no goal, with no purpose, with no aim. And that, unfortunately, I think that does filter downwards. And again, that's why I've made that point that I do not hold Ange Postecoglou totally responsible for what we are seeing right now. Because quite frankly, that is a man. And again, maybe might not like I'm going to say here, that is a man that's won wherever he's been. So he's used to winning. He's actually not used to what he's going through at Tottenham, like Conte wasn't, like Mourinho wasn't. You know, these guys are used to winning. And at the same time, again, I'll make that point that if you are not prepared to give the tools, to give the funds to a manager that wants to take the club forward, then what is the purpose of being here? You know, January is going to be an interesting window. Before January will be interesting. You know, we've got a number of games, as Dal mentioned there in his piece there, to come that, quite frankly, are going to really shape the narrative to the second half of this season. We're all back here for our sins next week for the Carabao Cup quarter-final with what that's going to offer to us, which, as many know, that's probably the pinnacle of my season, which pretty much sums up my life as a Tottenham fan. And quite frankly, what this club want to be and where they want to go. I mean, Dal made that point there that we all would love to see the club win something. And you made that point as well there, Dal, that, you know, our expectations maybe have been set too high. I will just say that I think there are Spurs fans out there that will look at maybe those comments and just say, and it's not doing you down a day or two, I'm sure you'll get this, that if we can just see effort and application as a first and foremost, we'll take that. You know, that's something to build upon. But when you are not getting that as a mandatory point of reference, that is where I think many fans are disillusioned, they're concerned, they're worried. Remove the manager for 1 second, just looking at the team that are out there. These players want a huge amount of money per week now, right? And I'm sure you agree here, when you and TJ take the stage, the one thing you guys have got to give is an element of effort and communication. And Miles as well, when he goes and gets the kids from school.
And Rick, you know that I kicked off with that today, saying that I'm looking for our leaders and I was disappointed man for man on what they delivered. Totally hear you on that, totally with you. And that's the big picture, is I don't want to be here and dig out people because I don't feel it serves a purpose. I'm looking at everyone collectively. Everyone that stepped across that line had a job to do, and they all failed. They didn't do their job. They didn't do it well enough. Fraser Forster, as Marlon quite rightly said, there were a lot of people, and I was in our group saying, listen, this is a time when Vicario's out and everyone's on, we ain't got a keeper. When you go, it could make a hero out of somebody. We wrote this guy off as just there to fill a bench, just there to hold a seat, just there for the quota of British players, whatever. He has stepped up.
It's been phenomenal.
He has absolutely said, my hands still work, my mind still work. And the pressure that he has, though, is his feet don't do the magic he wants to. And sometimes that short pass is dangerous. And that's part of the problem. But that's a Spurs thing that we need to work out. Now we've got different players receiving the ball there. It's got to be changed and people have got to be ready. So, no, Rick, I back you 100%. The players need to be accountable. And as a fan base, we're waiting for them to give us something to cheer for. We're waiting for them to give us the moment to get behind them, because that's all we want is a moment. And then we're right with you. I said, traveling fans, God bless you. You were amazing. I could hear it. And I feel for you as much because I'm here, cold, vexed, and you're there, vexed. And that's what we need to do. We need to see what's going on, hold people accountable, not kill them. That's what our fan base likes to do. They play bad, get them out. I'm not saying Brennan Johnson should be out because he doesn't beat a man. Let's help him get there, give him the confidence to do it. When he gets the ball, let's push him forward, give him that impotence to do it, and then he may try. Because we know we can score a goal, but let's see the confidence in a lot of our players today. Confidence was completely on the floor, energy was on the floor, and we're going to struggle. Of course we are.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point we make, and we do need to go for a break in a second to bring in, obviously, the nature of how that game played out, and we're going to look to Southampton. Before we do, TJ, Dal makes some really important points there that we do need to discuss. That how much do the players, and sometimes the players seem to escape blame on a lot of different, counters out there when it comes to conversations around performances, displays, manager, team selection, tactics. How much? I hope not. Again, we try and make that point. I hope we make that point that, again, we hold the players as much responsible as we do the manager, as we do the board, as we do the coaching staff, as we do everybody inside that football club. How much should the players now be taking responsibility for their own performances? That this is not a one-off, right? This is, again, a case where we have seen several displays like that this season where the energy and the word vibe is quite simply off. Yes, it got better in, you'd argue, the last 20 minutes of that game, but for the large chunk of it, and we've seen similar displays by not only this group of players, even when the first team were available, we are not seeing that energy, that commitment and desire for the shirt. How much do you put down to the players for that for you?
I put an enormous amount of responsibility on the players. The thing is with football, right, is that, you know, it's a sport, so it's ostensibly a game. It's a pastime, and a pastime that, you know, literally billions of people around the world absolutely adore, myself included, and, you know, everybody on this panel. But the thing is that these are professional footballers, so they're at work, and so the attitude that you have to show to yourself and show to your teammates and show to the fans should be an absolute constant. Ricky, you've said it time and time again. It's the bare minimum that we expect. From my perspective, it's the only thing that I demand from professional footballers is 100% of your effort, will, ability, energy, enthusiasm, application, all the rest of it, right? We see that so sporadically, so very, very rarely. And to Marlon's point that he made earlier when he was making a plethora of wise points, is that we have already seen it. And so the thing is that you can't claim, well, I can't do it, because you can. We've seen it. We saw it a few weeks ago against City. We saw it last season against Chelsea when we went down to 9 men and we lost that game, and we were singing their praises because, Ricky, to your point, we're not idiots. We're not fools. We've seen it already. So we have seen what happens and what it looks like when you apply yourselves. And so if you don't do that, we also notice something that was indicative to me today of the rot that has set into this current Tottenham team is we lost the, you know, in the second half, we lost the ball from the kickoff. Like, what's that? Like, you don't have enough trust or cohesion or ability or concentration or focus to not lose the ball from the kickoff. Yep. What are you doing? And so to me, it really, is that coaching? Is that a system that these guys can't keep the ball from a kickoff? No, that's focus and concentration. I do think, again, I'm sorry to keep banging this drum. I do think it's leadership. I'm sorry to keep
we're lacking that, TJ. We're lacking
fair, isn't it, boys?
We are lacking it massively.
Come on, man. We're lacking that. Again, I won't this team that I play with, when you guys come over to LA, come and play with us on a Friday night. It's an absolute joy, right? I won't have that. Like, you know, when we go out at half time, I'm like, okay, boys, you know, let's focus, concentrate, These are professional athletes, man. Professional athletes that you do shoulder an enormous amount of responsibility. You do get paid loads of money. But also, if I'm speaking to them like as a sports psychologist, I would say, listen, gents, your career is really short. It's really, really short. You have such a precious amount of time to make hay. That sun will shine so very briefly. Let me drop some names. Clang, here we go, incoming, right? So I've played with Del Piero up here a few times. You know what I mean? I played with Joe Cole. I've played, like, you know, Clang, right? All those guys that were over in LA. I played with them, man. I promise you. And you say, what was it like? They all say it was too short. They all miss it. You know, they miss it terribly, that competition. Like, you can see it, you know, in the pundits. Like, you know, I love Big Meeks, right? I love him. You can see that he still wants to be back out on the pitch when he's commentating on the Champions League games, right? It's so short. So I would say to these guys, as a leader, I would say to these boys, let's make as much hay while the sun shines as we possibly can and give 100% every time we put on a Tottenham Hotspur jersey and step out onto the pitch.
Ricky, quickly, I just want to ask a quick question because the one thing that I'm kind of, and everyone's kind of put it, you asked the question earlier, do the players believe in this system? My question to everybody would be, do you think the players only believe in this system when Van der Ven's fit? Because you saw something different on Sunday when we started against Chelsea, but in the other games that he's been missing, it's kind of like they go, this is not going to work today because we haven't got Van der Ven. And are they starting to go, we can only play this system when Van der Ven's playing? I'm just looking at it like trying to see some positives here. Because
Miles, should that affect a player like James Maddison so drastically? Like, what's happened to him? Like, I'm not disagreeing with you, but should that affect him to such a degree?
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
But this is why I'm asking the question, because are the players all looking at each other going, actually, when Van der Ven's not there, we will have to play slightly different because we haven't got the pace to get us out of trouble. So maybe we can't make that pass because if it goes to their player and they catch us on the break, we've got Ben Davies, Dragishin, and even Romero at times where Van der Ven, they're not the most the quickest on the planet. So they're looking at it going, maybe I won't make that pass, maybe I won't do this. So doubt starts creeping in their head, and maybe this is the reason why we are seeing such a downturn in performances, especially when Van der Ven got injured, compared to what it's been like before. It's just a question.
Can I say one thing on that, Miles, for you to come back on that point, Miles? What's quite interesting is that you'll know more than anybody that as soon as one player or a couple of them start to lose their focus with a manager at Tottenham, they're very quick to hit the press and to go out there and give a story. You know, arguably right now, this would be the easiest time to go and do that. And all we are hearing behind the scenes at Spurs is that they are very much enjoying the training. They're enjoying working under Ange Postecoglou. They are really behind the manager, and they're giving their all in training. So to go back to your question, that if, again, this is what I don't quite understand. If we are looking at the performances in the recent weeks, with all due respect, where there has been a decimation of the squad and he hasn't got his first choice players, and some of his performances are so off at the moment, does that not really tally up with what we're hearing? Because it's very hard, isn't it, to equate that. You know, all we're hearing behind the scenes is that the players are enjoying playing under Ange Postecoglou. They're enjoying the training. They're all firmly behind him. The club are backing Ange during this difficult period, given the injury crisis at the moment. What do you take away when you're hearing those reports?
Depends who they're coming from sometimes, because, you know, I look at Romero's comments and I go, kind of, he's playing for a move. He knows if he upsets the hierarchy, he's already said last summer Real Madrid already came calling in, but he knew that, look, he knew they weren't going to negotiate with Levy. Oh, I'm the guy who's going to come out and say it, because at the end of the day, I'm an asset to the club. So they're either going to have to sell me or they're going to have to find me. So I'm kind of looking, you know, and that's the thing, right? Romero can come out and say it. So I don't know that we probably, like, some of the players that used to speak to the press before, maybe not there anymore. Maybe that's another thing. Maybe we're starting to find out who those players were, like Harry Winks and players like that, where it's only really Ben Davis now, who's from the old clique, as they say, who kind of had that relationship with the press. So look, at the end of the day, I don't know. I can only take what they say, but their performances are not showing it. And that's why I did ask the question about Van der Ven, because I saw something different in that first half against Chelsea. And I felt like when everyone asked the question, are they playing for the manager? If you took that first half against Chelsea, no matter how bad we were, they were going into every tackle. They were winning things. They were actually trying. Compared to tonight and Bournemouth, I'm kind of looking at going, when they go out to that pitch, and people will be like, but Maddison and all these players should have a better mentality. But when you've got someone like Van der Ven who is out, who's very, very key to this system, they're going out and they already got doubt in their mind already, going, will that defender be able to cover me? Will this person, when he's passing the ball? And that starts creeping into their head. And maybe that's why they can't put two passes together, because they're overthinking it. And maybe they just got to go out, and this is where Ange needs to fix it and play with the freedom. I don't know. I just kind of look at it and go, why are these performances suddenly dropped off since Van der Ven, really dropped off since Van der Ven's been out? So maybe that's where the key area for us going forward. We need to have a better, there's loads of replacements out there. You can even go and look at FIFA, and like, there's so many players out there with pace that could probably come in at centre back, that we would, like Ash from our thing has shown me centre backs who's quick as Van der Ven, and can do the exact same job. So there are players out there, but why is our club not going after them, or not thinking, actually, and this has about been 2 years, we can clearly see Van der Ven's a very key part, and we need a speed merchant at the back. So why are we not going out there, getting that replacement and finding it, and actually looking wherever? Because you're not going to sit there and tell me Van der Ven's the quickest centre back in the world, because he's not. There are other ones out there and at decent levels, and have played at decent levels. So I'm looking at it going, maybe that's where we need to kind of plug first, and maybe then when you see someone coming in for Van der Ven who's an equivalent, might not be the exact same, but more of an equivalent with the pace, maybe the players will go, actually, I know Thingy's going to get me out of trouble. I can lay that pass. I can do this. I can do that. And maybe they will be a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, where Ange plays on the brink, you know, they play those 1-2 passes out, and they're taking
gambling.
the risks. It's gambling,
It's gambling football. It's risk-averse football. And the reality is, I mean, the worry with that, the way you structure it there, Miles, and I hope you don't mind me saying this and I'm not putting words in your mouth, is that when that doesn't work, it can all come down like a pack of cards very, very quickly, because you are reliant upon that one player to really be the sole focus around the system you are trying to play. Look, before we do go for a break, we need to squeeze in Southampton as well and just touch upon the goals. That you'll be glad to know there's not a huge amount that's come from that Rangers game, so we're not going to completely kill you off, quite frankly. And was asked his thoughts on the game itself and Spurs' overall performance of it. He said, look, a tough game was expected. With the atmosphere, the first half was pretty tight with no real clear-cut chances on either side. Obviously, when they score after half-time, the stadium goes up and it's going to be a tough one to claw back. But I thought we worked really hard to get ourselves back in the game. I thought the subs made the difference and we scored a good goal. We had another couple of moments, and in the end, a great save by Fraser was really an pivotal moment for us. And in the context of where we are in Europe, that is a big point. And I wanted to make that clear. He was asked if he felt the result was fair, and he said, look, it's the result. What's fair and unfair? I think it's for others to judge that. I thought it was a fairly tight game for the most part of it. They're always able to play here at Ibrox, particularly on European nights. Just the nature of the contest, the atmosphere. Not many teams come here and win, so you expect it to be a tough game. He praised the performance of Archie Gray. He said, Archie, look, he's 18 years old. It's a big experience for him. And bless Archie, we've got to make that point. I think Archie Gray has played all but every position under Ange Postecoglou so far, apart from striker. I mean, it's actually unique so far, and you'd maybe argue left wing and right wing. He said, look, we're asking to do things as an 18-year-old in his first year at this level to play in unfamiliar positions in such big games. I thought he was simply outstanding. I also felt Lucas Bergvall was outstanding. I made that point earlier. He was due to start. He had been under the weather, but those two 18-year-olds to be already contributing and experiencing things will be enormous benefit to us in the latter part of course, their Spurs career. And was asked, look, the Europa League has been pretty relentless. Is it a benefit now to have the remaining games next month where you can get a few players back? He said, look, like I said, we'll probably look back at this game and it will be a good point for us. It's one more game at home and then Hoffenheim away. And we're in that bubble of being able to get through automatically, which is ideally what we want. The fact is that it's not 5 or 6 weeks. We'll be in much better shape squad-wise. With a bit of luck by then, those games come around. We'll look back on this game specifically as an important point. So look, we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners on audio. As always, guys, thanks so much for all your incredible support for the show. We have got over 5,000 of you that are watching us live. So thank you so much for tuning in and taking a seat on our therapy couch. And look, you wonderful patients, I'm joined by 3 of the finest doctors you will find in the Spurs community. I'm joined by actors Darren Hartman and TJ Ramini and the brilliant Marlon over at the Spurs Kings that make up this terrific panel where, look, quite honestly, as I mentioned at the top of this show, we don't want shows to be draining. We don't want shows to be negative. We just have to provide some realism and honesty of where we are right now. And I would really hope that this is what these shows are doing for you on a week-by-week, game-by-game. Let's hope it's not going to turn day-by-day basis. Otherwise, I will be facing a divorce. Quite frankly. We are going to turn our attention to the lineup for this one. We're going to fly through it. We've got a little bit to recover on this last one on Spurs. I appreciate time-wise for all you bingo lovers out there. Strike off those bingo cards. We are very much conscious of time. Spurs, of course, did line up in a lineup where, again, it was a change in terms of what Ange Postecoglou had to do again due to injury. We knew before the game he lost Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven again, and that also includes the absentee list of Vicario, Richarlison, Odegaard, Ben Davis and Mikey Moore. Ibasuma was suspended from Spurs' next Premier League game at Saints, so he was straight into the lineup. And of course, Bentancur is still serving at domestic ban, which again meant for him, he was straight back in the team as well. It was Dominic Solanke, Pat Matassar, and Dejan Kulusevski's turn to get a rest for this one, with Heung-Min Son playing through the centre of the attack. Brennan Johnson recovered from illness and was on the right, with Timo Werner coming in on the left. That Tottenham team read Forster, Porro, Dragashin, Gray, Adogi, Bentancur, Basuma, Maddison, Johnson, Son, Werner, with a bench of Austin, Whiteman, Dorrington, Hardy, Bergvall, Olasise, Sarr, Kulusevski, Solanke, Williams, Barnett, and Lancashire. Spurs lined up with Archie Gray on the right side of the centre-back pairing with Dragashin on the left. In terms of the way that game played out, first half, again, limited chances really. Werner curling one over the crossbar after a good run and shook his head after Werner's touch saw the ball go completely out of play. Rangers did apply quite heavy pressure. And I think going into the half-time, there was a feeling that Spurs had to change it. And to be fair, Ange Postecoglou did. Probably the least surprising change was seeing Kulusevski coming on to replace Werner in that second half. Johnson switched to the left, and soon after, Rangers did score to go 1-0 up. And look, ball over the top, which does seem to be a trademark of catching Tottenham out. It found Heung-Min at the back post, a half volley home. Have to say that it was terrible positioning from Pedro Porro that led to the goal that Rangers scored. And it's been quite a frequent goal that Spurs have conceded with that ball being over the top. That would be a concern. Spurs after that had a couple of chances. Kulusevski picked out Johnson in the box, but he curled an effort over. That led to Ange making a triple sub. Changes being Solanke, Sarr and Bergvall on for Johnson, Basuma and Bentancur. You could argue and say those changes really did have a massive effect on the game. I mean, Bergvall really started to take play. He started to make a difference. And we're asking for leaders. We're asking for players to step up. And there was your leader, Dejan Kulusevski, scoring for Tottenham. It was his actual first goal in the Europa League this season. Solanke's pass goes all the way through to Kulusevski, who placed the ball in beautifully to bring Tottenham level. You can see by the nature of that game, I'm really skipping through a lot of the main incidents and coming to the point of the four that really, down to you, Dejan Kulusevski. We talk about players stepping up and being leaders. Yes, he was only on the field for 45 minutes. He created more chances than anybody else. How much is Dejan Kulusevski really carrying this team for you at the moment?
He's doing a wonderful job. I think he's one of those players that you can see, you can see that the players trust him. And he's a player who makes himself available all the time for the ball. He's a willing runner and he's hit a nice vein of form. I think him coming into the middle has done great for him. And I think that that's an area where he really thrives. And yeah, I was very happy with what he did. And I think there's also, for me, there's a moment that I'm looking forward to seeing at some point. I'm looking forward to see Archie Gray play as a DM because I've got a lot of friends who are Leeds fans and his in-game intelligence and his management and his control and composure and his positional sense, which you also saw as a centre-half today. He reads the game very well. And I'm looking forward to seeing him play as a DM at some point. I hopefully get it this season. Injuries can kind of come back and we can get a little bit more of our back four back. Then maybe we can drop Basuma out because he's not playing at his best right now. Bentancur's not playing at his best right now and see what Archie can do in there. If we bought these players, they're young, but if we bought them to play, let's play them. And I'd love to see Archie in his position. Just a little digress from Kulu. But Kulu, very impressed with him so far this season.
Yeah. Lovely words there, Dale. I've got to say on Archie Gray. And see, to bring that in about Archie, he's pretty much, as I mentioned, played every position, bar centre forward and left and right wing. I do agree with Dale. It would be lovely to actually see him play what he considers for him his natural position of, a central defensive midfielder. But arguably, again, we'll make that point that as Dale, I know as many Leeds fans out there, they watched him on loan last season at right back being quite formidable and it wasn't his natural position. I mean, how excited should we be about Archie Gray? And maybe a word for Lucas Bergvall. He's not had the most easiest time during his Spurs career to date. How impressed was you by him and how important will those two players be for Tottenham moving forward? And you made the point, just 18 years old. I mean, quite honestly, don't laugh about this. This is the future of Tottenham, aren't they? These two youngsters are really going to be players that we're going to look to steer us into this next venture at Tottenham. God help us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really impressed. I mean, we've talked about Archie Gray on this show many times already, 18 years old. For those who are watching and listening who aren't 18 years old, if you remember back to what we were like at 18 years old, good Lord, I mean, my goodness, I was an absolute mess at 18 years old. And so
Glory years.
Goodness me. You can read it about it, my autobiography that comes out in about 50 years.
Mine isn't on the book. That's all I will say. Please carry on.
It'll be in the bargain basement somewhere at WH Smith at 99p. But at 18, not only is he showing incredible footballing ability, technique, and everything, but to Darren's point, the intellect of this young man is quite staggering. He's so cool under pressure. Like it was in about the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, he was backed up, not quite in, he was definitely in our 6-yard box, like not on the goal line, being pressured by two players. He went to clear the ball and then actually just kind of tucked it behind, went out to the wing and just kind of chipped it up the wing with his left foot. He's so cool under pressure. And if that's kind of his base note at 18 years old, he could be a stratospheric player. I mean, I think he's beyond an exciting prospect. One of those players who could really build a team around. And again, to Darren's point, especially when he moves more centrally, he could be absolutely talismanic for us. And so I really look forward to watching his progression. I have enormous appreciation. Nothing in well, it will be when I release my book, believe me. But anyway, I think as well that we have to kind of also acknowledge he's coming into a really poor Tottenham team right now at 18 and out of position. So like huge respect to him. For Bergvall, a mixed bag, I thought. I mean, the fact that he kind of came on and demanded the ball was really important, but I just think the other players around him don't really trust him yet. There were so many opportunities where we were, again, talking about this before we came on the air, where he is perfectly positioned to receive the ball and he wasn't even really being marked. They're doubling Kulu on the right. Pedro Porro has the ball, is being squeezed by a defender, doesn't want to pass it back to Fraser Forster, which I understand. There's Bergvall standing on the edge of the box, which is where he should be standing, you know, as a number 6 or even as a number 8. He could have turned in or turned out completely unmarked and they didn't give him the ball. Timo needs one more chance.
Let's be clear, he's a Brighton fan.
Yeah, seriously. I bet you're his biggest fan. And so I take my hat off to those young men, you know, coming into a wretched situation, you know, coming into a really creaky Tottenham team and, you know, shining. And we've all waxed lyrical tonight about how important it is to stand up and be counted, to be professional. Darren has said numerous times that you play for yourself before you play for your manager or your owner or your fans, or you are a professional and you stay true to yourself. You represent yourself and your family, or, you know, whoever is dear and close to you. And I think both of them did that. So kudos to those young men.
Oh, man, totally agree. And look, for all that, listen, was great about the Enquiries equaliser, Miles. I mean, we could have lost it in the later stages if it hadn't been for a fabulous save from Fraser Forster. I mean, you made that point at the start of this show, just emphasising really, with all due respect, how he has stepped up and given us some, you know, really important moments during this phase that he's been in Tottenham's goalkeeper ranks, to be honest, to some degree, and in the lineup. You know, we have to say this before he's a Fraser Forster, that he's at an age where arguably, and still with his performances, that he could, I mean, he won't believe I'm actually saying this, he could maybe go elsewhere and be a number 1, just based on really this run of games that he's had for Tottenham, where, with all due respect, you know, he has been absolutely formidable. I mean, what have you made of Forster really in a Spurs goal? You mentioned earlier just how much many now need to really maybe start signing some of those apology forms. That leadership he's given on the pitch and those saves at the end there, a couple of them, really key to Spurs rescuing a point at Ibrox, right?
No, definitely. And the thing that I find with Forster is, like, we judged him on probably a couple games in the Europa League, and we judged him on the commentary game, where, if we're being honest, he's rusty. Right? We've now given him a run of games, a bit like when Lloris got injured. Once we give him a run of games, you know, he starts getting a few things back. He starts shaking off, you know, the old what you call it? He starts shaking off everything where he's not the cobwebs. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, he starts shaking off the cobwebs and stuff. And we see performances like tonight, because if we're looking at that save at the end, everybody in Ibrox, everybody in London, everyone across the world thought that was a goal. And he makes a wonderful save. He spreads himself quick, and it was just, you just couldn't believe it. So, look, he's been, the last few games, he has made sure, if I'm going to say this correctly, that Ange probably would have been sacked by now if we had lost them games 4 or 5-0, because he's kept the score down. He's been absolutely brilliant. And I'm just quite glad that he's managed to actually get these performances out, and people can actually see why Spurs kept him. And unfortunately, look, I want to see Spence in, and there was a big decision to make. But are we counting ourselves lucky that we did put Forster in at the moment instead of Spence? I know, look, there's other things, the reason why Spence should have been in. But at the end of the day, we've got to count ourselves very lucky that after Vicario's injury, we have got a goalkeeper who's got this much experience to be able to come in and has done very, very well.
Yep, totally
considering
agree.
the results.
Yep. Like I said at the top of the show there for Tottenham, 2 games now remain for Spurs to secure a top 8 finish in the Europa League and avoid a 2-legged knockout tie. Those remaining fixtures away at Hoffenheim and at home to Elfsborg. You could argue and say that those two games will come around where hopefully Tottenham will be in a better place when it comes to their injury status. And for those that are on audio, Darren Hartman, which you'll always know Darren Hartman, is absolutely nodding away, full of confidence. But is he not full of confidence that things will get better? What we are going to do, as he does chuckle in the background there as well, not to say that he's not believing what he does say, because he always believes what he says. Of course he does. We are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners on audio and take you into that break. We're going to hear from the brilliant Matt Sanders, who has given us a preview ahead of Spurs playing Southampton. He is, for all things Southampton, the number one personally looking and keeping an eye on. So thank you so much for that, Martin, for that listen on audio. We're going to look ahead to Southampton now. Spurs, of course, back in action Sunday evening, where they'll be facing Southampton on, of course, the coast. Bottom of the table, Southampton. Yes, they are indeed. But I think if you're not Tottenham, you're not slightly a little bit nervous for this one, to put it politely, maybe. I mean, TJ, we'll open up with you. You're back with us for the game. I feel like I'm putting TJ through the real at the moment. He's trying to say he's got a nice bit of time coming off soon where he's going to absolutely lap every minute of it. And guess what?
I had to get on a plane to avoid you, Rick.
I'm so sorry, mate. I'm so sorry. The January window's coming after that, so we're going to be all right. What are we worried about? TJ, should we worry about Southampton?
Of course, dude. Of course. I'm worried about Southport. I'm a Tottenham fan. I mean, are you kidding me? Worried about Southampton. Listen, they looked great against Liverpool, didn't they, at home?
They've looked really good, haven't they, in periods this season? They just haven't, unfortunately, taken the chances that they've created. If they had taken those chances, then God, where would they be?
Yeah, I mean, there's a very famous quote, right, which is, "I'd rather be lucky than good." And I think they have been really unlucky, Southampton. Of course, others will say that you create your own luck in this life. And I think there is an enormous amount of truth to that. You get one go round and there are so many opportunities where you kind of have to put the pedal to the metal yourself and make things happen. But, to quote the great Greavesy, football is a funny old game. And I do think they haven't had their fair proppers. They haven't got the rub of the green, or I'm spouting so many sporting analogies in this assessment. But they're a good size. They're no mugs, and they're going to come out with something to prove. And again, to Darren's point earlier, teams always turn up for Tottenham, right? They do, and I think the reason for that is I don't think. God. At least since sort of peak Potter. You all right, Rick? Are you having an aneurysm, mate?
I feel like I've seen this movie before.
I know you have, but you'll watch it and you'll enjoy it. I mean,
the last time I was looking forward to Southampton, we all know what happened next, and Conte went absolutely mental.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the end of that.
I mean, look, man, Tottenham are a team not since peak Poch. We have no fear factor. You know what I mean? Like, you can just tell anyone who plays us are saying to themselves, legitimately, I fancy this today. I fancy this. And that's why they turn up. The problem with Tottenham, I mean, we've got numerous problems, but the problem with Tottenham is we are certainly a big enough scalp for people to say, I really want to beat Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, that's the
right. But we're also a really wobbly, really delicate team where people say, not only do I want to beat Tottenham Hotspur, where they believe for real, and we can do it. We can beat Tottenham Hotspur. I think that's almost unique to Tottenham. I would argue probably in the last 5 years, Manchester United would also be on that same precipice where people feel, God, I'd love to turn over Manchester United. And then someone in the dressing room goes, I think we can. And so that's a problem. We've got no kind of fear factor. And so again, when we're talking about effort and application, that's why bursting out of the gates is so important. Overwhelm these guys with your energy and your technical ability. Zip that ball around in a way that they feel like, goodness me, I could never pass the ball like that, move like that, place those, shoot like that, mark my men like that. Come out and show your superiority and dominance, because that psychological factor is massively important. I think it'll be a tough game. I do think we'll win it. I think we'll win that game 2-1, and I think they might score first, is my prediction.
TJ, thank you so much, mate. Really, really appreciate it. I know can I say, it literally does feel quite like a shift at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, even I will say that, as much as, look, it's, the least important of the important things in life, I mean, Miles said it before he came on here. I hope Miles won't mind me saying this, he said, God, I love coming on here, but it is bloody tough when it's like this. And I have to agree with you. And that's why even the selection of guests, for me, it's really important that we have people on here that are going to tell it as it is, but also are just honest in their opinion. That's why, again, we love having all you guys on. We can't thank you enough. So, TJ, thank you so much. We have to let him go to rest now and bring him back out for Sunday. It feels like, doesn't it? Let him rest, bring him back out for Sunday, mate. We can't thank you enough. And, mate, we always say this, don't we? These shows are a sense of we all go away as much as, we have to watch the game and then do these. It does feel a sense of therapy. You come away from these feeling, right, I've got it all out and I'm ready to go again.
Again, we were saying before the show, before we started, whenever I appear on this program, when I watch it, when I listen to it, I'm always smiling at the end, no matter what's happened, even at the moment. And I'm still smiling at the end. And I think that's part of our job, part of what, I'm trying to do. Obviously, Ricky, you steer the ship with such good grace and such humour and such great balance. Marlon, always a pleasure, brother. And Darren, the same, man. And so I'm smiling at the end. So my thanks to all the viewers and listeners. And man, I'll see you on the weekend. Lots of love. Bro,
my love for you as always. What a man. What a human being. The wonderful TJ Ramini. Miles, let's come to you. Look, we know Southampton isn't going to be easy. We know, with all due respect, these are the games that, Tottenham are expected to win. But we know that this is a game on paper that we have seen before. I said that we've seen that movie before under Conte where you go into the game of expectancy of going to win, but at the same time, in the back of your mind, there's that nagging doubt. Will we do it? We're not in great form at the moment. It's 1 win in 8. And Southampton's form isn't great as well. They're at the bottom of the table. They've been desperate in the points. This is what I will just say on this point, is that is a team that will come fighting, that will come with energy, that will come with belief. And, before we actually go to win the game, Miles, we've got to match that energy. We've got to match that belief. We've got to match that desire, commitment for the shirt. Can we at least do that before I even think about a performance and a result? Can we do that?
Yes, of course we can. It's Spurs, but it's been up and down anyway. Like if we asked, could they do that against Chelsea? We got that for the first 20 minutes. They gave us that application, so that's why we're sitting there going, well, why did they come out like that tonight? The thing with Southampton is they play great football, but the problem that they have, and hopefully Spurs have done their homework, they make their own mistakes. And you've got to set traps for them. And that's exactly all we need to do to beat them. That's what Liverpool did. They might have played well, but there's traps set. They keep making their own mistakes. And as long as the coach and staff, and they should be drumming this into them over the next 3 days, set this trap. It was a bit like, when we played Fulham last year and Calvin Bassey, James Maddison said, we set him traps. This is exactly what we need to do to Southampton. They've played like three different goalkeepers in the last 3 weeks. They are struggling. So at the end of the day, for me, as long as Spurs, it's going to be a tactical game on Sunday, where Spurs literally will have to do this, go on, set the traps. And as long as they do that, we'll come out that game and we'll win it. It doesn't matter who's on there because we can do it with any player, but it's going to be something that we've probably, we can play our way, but we're a bit like Southampton. We can play our way, but it's about missed chances, and we've got to take our chances on Sunday. But look, I'm going to say this. I might have been a bit negative when I came on the show tonight, but I personally think
I'm not sure negative is anymore with his club. I've got to be honest with you.
But I personally think because of the time of the game as well on Sunday being at 7 and be a bit later and stuff like that, I think that's going to fall into our favour a little bit. So I'm hoping that they will turn up, they'll do their thing, and they'll go get the 3 points. But don't get this twisted. Southampton are probably looking forward to playing us as well because of how up and down we've been and who the results we've dropped points against, like the Ipswiches and everyone else like that. So we've just got to look. They can do it. We know they can do it. But we'll just see what they do in the first 10 minutes. We'll know. As soon as we kick off, like TJ said earlier, we gave the ball back to Rangers. You knew straight away what game we were in for. So the same's going to be on Sunday. We kind of always know how Spurs are going to turn up within that first 5 minutes. But look, thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to everyone tonight. It's been a therapy session for me as well. And thank you to the two below because they're even making me feel positive. And anybody that's going to write comments afterwards, if they're going to be like, it was a bit negative at the beginning, please explain to me, because this is what I want, because I'm sitting on the fence. Please explain to me why you're so positive and what you think that's going to be good for us going forward. And I want to read them because I love reading them, because I go, actually, I can see that point. And that's exactly what I want from this.
Okay. Miles, we love you. We've also got to
Pleasure.
pack you back up and bring you back out for more. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I tell you what, I must just say, I know like your missus, I'm not in a lot of good people's books at the moment, am I? I feel like I'm
No.
not going to be getting a Christmas card at the moment. I'm literally rolling everybody out for more. So please accept my apologies, mate. But we send loads of love to you, to Ash. God, oh, we love you both. Thank you so much. The wonderful Miles here at Spurs Kings TV. Ash, what's the prediction you went for? Prediction, Miles, remind me. What's the prediction?
I'm going for a 3-1 Spurs.
After all that.
Yeah.
What a football club. I've got no words. I mean, you know what will make me laugh is, right? I remember Dal, bless his heart, he hadn't been on here for a couple of months and he sent a video in the car. I remember Dal saying, hello, Hartman here. I know I'm not on for a while, but I'm coming back. Don't worry. It's all going to be all right. And I'm not going to say, because Dal is one of the most positive fans that I know. I'm not saying I blame Hartman, but Hartman, what the bloody hell has gone on?
Listen, I told you, I'm back. Relax.
I know
The
you're
season's
back.
not over
We can
yet.
see you're back.
It's not over yet, people. Just know I'm here for you. Hug and love. I got you all. I'm going to do Southampton while I'm here. So listen, no, there's no easy game in the Premiership. We know that. That's a given. However, Southampton, the way they're playing, they don't like being pressed. If we do our job, that's all we've got to do is do our job. This game plays into a confidence booster for Spurs. It really could be a confidence booster because Southampton, once you press them, they fall apart. As Marlon said, they make their own mistakes, just like we do. So if we put the pressure on them early doors, as TJ said, if we turn up from minute 1 and we do our job, it could be a 2-1. It could be a 3-1. That's what we need. That's what the players need. You know what? It may sound like a dumb thing to say. If they give it what they should do, this could be the real confidence booster for so many individuals. Brennan Johnson getting one. Dom Solanke getting one. It needs certain individuals need that at the weekend, having a few days to think about what went wrong in their own performance, not as a team, in yourself. That self-reflection is key. Do that for yourself and then give us something at the weekend. If we come out from minute 1, we could win this game 3-4. You know what I mean? We really could. Because Southampton are going to feel the pressure if we do that to them. But if we invite Southampton and give them the opportunity, we'll make a mess for ourselves. But I'm never going to back us to lose. I'm never going to say that. I can't do it. So I'm always going to call a win. I'm going to go that it's going to be 2-1. I'm going to back TJ. But it could be 3 or 4 if we do our job. Because that's what I expect. Now, Spurs fans, keep the faith. Keep the faith. Marlon, I told you I was bringing good vibes. I told you I'm going to put a smile on your face. It's been achieved. Me and TJ, we never fail. We make it happen. Spurs fans.
I'll send them round after this, Miles. I'll send them both round to you after this.
I'm there, man. Send me addresses, man. Postcode, I'm on it. I'm on it. Spurs fans, all I can say is this, right? On a real, let's not throw our team under the bus. Let's not do it to ourselves. Let's go again.
You're not going to tell us to throw ourselves under the bus, are you, after that?
Listen, I'm taking all the buses off route. We're only going on trains. No buses. No buses. We're training everywhere.
Crackers would be happy, no doubt.
I know, I've got to support Cracks. Old school. We're getting back there. We're doing it. But team, we've got this. And the season ain't over. And I feel that, as to say, it's a roller coaster. Right now, we're not enjoying that dip. It's hurting our stomach. We're feeling sick. But once we go down and come back up, I feel there's a lot more to enjoy. Let's hang in there. Hang in there.
Dal, you're an absolute star. Whenever I ask Dal and TJ what's going on, it's NDAs. So I can't ask them what's going on anymore. So you'll see them before I tell you what they're doing, as you always will with these amazing people. Guys, listen, thank you so much for all your incredible support for the show. We do really appreciate its testing times. We do really appreciate that things aren't great at the moment. And look, all I will just say is that we will be here through the thick and the thin, and we'll try and tell it as it is and find the positives. There are positives and call out the negatives when there are negatives. But at the end of the day, it's our football club, right? We love them. They drive us insane, but they're always going to be our football club. So listen, let's see what it brings. I want to say a massive thank you again to the wonderful Marlon at Spurs Kings TV. Miles, thank you so much. Please go check him out. To our wonderful couple of amazing actors in the land, TJ Ramini, Darren Hartman. Look, we have been the last word on Spurs. We'll see you for Southampton. I don't know what's going to happen, but with Tottenham, you never quite know. It's It's a continuous soap drama. Why have we got these wonderful actors involved? I don't bloody know. They're amazing. Look, from us all here, from these wonderful guys. Please keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.